and pretend there's a more woman yente. Oh yeah, yet was all politicians, Kafra. What is ka? Oh, what is ka wezi? Anayente. Muka na monka. No cry. It is a muka na dama. Not the main concern there. How would that money be utilized? Remember, Minister Okane, there is going to be a transparent system. Emi no yo yebotum ya track it. Oh, abanizi dem E-levy bay. No ni contractors use this there. Would you want to no kweni yebotum yezu this there. In Brenton and Katesia do a workit and san ejuma a workit and nizi da wo pede wo ye wan kwan krejuma. We need access to capital to do their business. Then we can be sure there indeed aban nenum kasa okan no osaye dwuma no kwakwa dem be music kan kan no abani is free SHS riba no wan beji tax in enche. So it means there comparing ambeyo ku ebien ibi atena bem ibi akọ position ibi asana abebio se covid amba na sikasam anya basa minjinzi there in chaban zidam E-levy baba to survive as a government. Because abani will track record the upper and auto tax do if you compose or if you meanwhile no there baby now no abana nka de oh mama mensado since ya member county free SHS metro abana nka dem abana nka teacher training nurses there look since ya yemu de sike you want allowance meanwhile no now the politics of it I mean emidebi amaka there politics me MPP obisu CPP or your competition se nyimpa na anka se ntiam a obey na wa baben abazinti no there dey bi obonsem mam so no ya ze papam po a aka ye politics nti no oyedo okka bibi odutu odutu ya to be that oye no mampanyin kufo osisikas aka hye fango ne hwehwem magana ye to fango because there was a cross castle the malbury brofi was a fango catch on mampanyin kufo yeti wo radio do pi was oh fango na was we onye no kwar da Ghana ya nam hi ni ye Kenya fango eyi mposi se yo ya jongo that say obibi o wa ha bia no ozi ho dese nanso nature e ba ze ne hu ye hu do ye no kwar fango abagana pa yetu inde sanye dam fango ya ye nyen ya che ye gina hin it's Ghana ba yemfa NDC some MPP some ntwenche budget no ya pass for parliament yen NDC for na ya pass budget no pepepe wankade the opposed rate records will bear me out consensus yewie ye wo bibia wo fan appropriation na anyi there aban sike biara aban oyetum ifi parliament and some was spent ono so ya pass by consensus now a pass budget now a pass appropriation is aban ko spend aban spend no benya sika no wahi nti sika no benya na otum ozi ayewu roads na moframa we dwumasam akodon na se bio onezi menyun ya adwena na ibi aka na chada what it's in Orba but when you from there initially was 1 year ya adwen it was so once when you enjoy 1% finance minister waka ne name also telcos no oni wana akasa was 0.25 busy was obutu wa to da me nti yenhwe ne farba ni inde ishiezi nti Ghana mba enuanom nti America ni de wo ma yenye jezi e wo nhihye yi mu osande abani be obi biara owo Ghana ni abani po ya adwen beja mu de asɛm biara aba no kae dɛ onye tuma ɔbɛyɛ nhyehyɛe biara a ɔde n'ano kae no sɛ enyu ehu ni a aso ate. There is no way a Ghana nyi bi botumi egyina beebi waka do oh dɛm Akufo-Addo abani ɔwɔ opposition ɔka dɛ ɔba ɔbɛyɛ dɛm ɔbɛn mpo ɔnyɛ hwee. Nyi abɛn ne nyɛ adwene mpo ntumi nka osan dɛ dza wɔkɛn wɔ manifesto promise no wɔse yɛ adwuma. It can be 100% that I concede, but largely it's being implemented. Nti no wɔnyɛ gyizi dɛ nyɛ ndaadaa bi na mo w'ani som dɛ mbere ɔde hɛn anim yi sɛ Nyankopɔn yɛ adom no yɛ pass ase a Ghanafo wɔbɛhu no mu mfaso. Ibi esi da wɔ mampanyin Kufuor n'abere do. Ibi esi wɔ Akufo-Addo n'abere do. Na yɛbɛsan yɛhu bibi papa wɔ abɛn mu. Nti wɔn yɛn nyinaa yɛnte yɛkyi. Nyankopɔn nhyɛ wɔn dɛ wɔetie mu. Mɛda wɔn ase pii Nyame hyɛ wɔn dɛ.
Women friends Mboke Sima, the Honorable Alexander Fenyomaki, Member of Parliament for Iputu, Nanu Disem Nanchichima, Ozama Heni. Nyanum Nadofon Cherbia, Mete, Akasamuno Baba Bib Mewo, Nagentre War, Asimbisibia Wono, was said that to Penupi when Bima Wedri, the Bada, Mefre Omani Hen for to Samfo, the Minister responsible for Finance, the Honorable Kenneth. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's good to be in Kofodia. Colleague ministers, thank you very much for being here. Our pastors, thank you for blessing Parliament and everyone else here. It's really an exciting afternoon for me to be here with you. And as my colleagues have said, to really talk through this issue of E-levy and to see what we can do as a country to move forward, move really up to the shackles, continue to borrow so much money, and then they dictate to us what we should do. So this is an emancipation of sorts, and we should really take it to heart. We are the Black Star. We are the shining star of Africa. And there are three pillars that we deem we should inculcate, because ours is a country that leads and is an idea for the continent. So we started as the first independent sub-Sahara Africa country in Nkrumah's time. For our size, we led the whole continent into democracy. It took almost 60 years for us to then have an organ of the AU in our country, and that was the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which really is the new independence, emancipating ourselves politically in the 60s, and then moving at this time to be the hub for investment and trade, which is the new economy that we have to. But there are three pillars that our president always wants to remember. Particularly in the 60s, that our president always wants to remind us about. This, in his mind, is a political independence, and Ghana, therefore, as a beacon of democracy and a safe space in this region, being economic emancipation, Ghana beyond aid, which we really were en route to achieving before COVID. And even that is a great um, carryover in terms of our economic achievements. And now, what we call the National Cathedral, which is also going to be a centerpiece of what Ghana represents. So Ghana as an idea is something that we should capture. But what does that mean? It's going to require us to be a confident, prosperous society with the human capital that is required to be able to raise our heads and lead Africa and the black race complete emancipation. But it's going to take some sacrifices on our part and a clarity for us that we are leaders and will do extraordinary things. So this is our lot, and this is where the president insists that we should step up in history to be able to achieve that and lead Africa out of this morass. And we have seen it, especially during this time of the COVID experience, where the West have left us where we should be. We have a system in Africa where literally 90% of all our pharmaceuticals are imported, and a whole series of things that create dependency. And therefore, when the global supply chain is cut, we have problems, big problems. So we went through 2017 to 2019 with incredibly stellar results as to what we as a country had been able to achieve, moving from 3.4% of growth to somewhere over 7%, reducing our budget deficits from 6.5% into about 5%, making sure that our currency did not depreciate as it used to be, and it's quite stable, and also having the necessary foreign exchange cover to make sure that we are able to support our currency and our imports. During this period, we did the impossible. We spent over 40 billion cedis on education, 14 billion on healthcare, 14.9 billion on enhancing internal security, 18 billion on flagship projects, and it just continues as to the things that we were able to do with monies that the NDC were sure we will never be able to get. So the benefits have been for all of us, an all-inclusive growth in which about 1.26 million people have benefited from free SHS, 3.45 million covered by school feeding programs, the NAPCO, 100,000 young persons, the largest in our history, and over 344 households given lifeline under the LEAP program. So for us, the sovereignty of our people is clear. Everybody as a citizen having a part in this enterprise of this idea of a Ghana that is confident, prosperous, and leading the nation states of the world. Our president has also earned incredible international repute, and now when Ghanaians walk outside or even here, NDC or MPP, their heads are high because they know that Akufo-Addo has done it. Let's give him a clap. So we have to continue with these initiatives. And that then is a challenge of where do we get the resources to be able to do this. Traditionally, when you are caught in such a vice, you go to petrol, you increase it, and we know the cataclysmic effect it has on all of us when we do that. You know, so the good Lord, looking at what the president does, led us into this area of e-commerce. As the minister mentioned, we have grown from a country that was transferring about 78 billion a year in 2016 to over 500 billion this year, likely to be close to $1 trillion, 950 billion next year. Now, that is a system that everyone uses, that all of us use. So when she talks about only 2.4 million people paying taxes to support the 30.8 million, you begin to see the enormity of pressure on these 2.4 million people. And how is that sustainable? How do you deepen democracy if you do not pay taxes? The ability to challenge the political elite is muted, or you join in some underhanded things that we should not be doing. So we came back with the E-levy for three reasons. Well, first, certainly to broaden the tax base and then to increase revenue. And when you look at Ghana and the rest of our region, we have about 12.2% or so revenue to GDP, which is awfully low compared to our neighbors, 16.5% and up. That we cannot sustain. So we need to cure that. And then when you even look at the distribution of how we pay taxes, you have literally 88% being paid in Greater Accra and Eastern region. I have you know that they combine Eastern region, Ashanti region, and Western region together. They pay 3% of national taxes. That can't be right. And the population will bear me out that that can't be right. So we must all find a way to what we call burden share to be able to do that. So let's dig deep in ourselves. Nobody likes taxes. But really, if you look at our debt situation, what we need to do so we raise our own money to be able to build the roads that the CM is looking for, that all of you are looking for, then we must pay our way through it. If we begin to look at our employment issues, and I think that's a place that is really passionate for our president. And there's good reason for that, because what are we saying? We are saying that under the age of 24, you literally have 56% of our population in that zone. And when you look at economically active people in our country, you have about 11 million people, and that also then requires that we look at that population. Now, if you were to even begin to look, because of the issue of education, you have about 4.6 million people at primary school. By the time we get to JHS, to 2.6 million. So what happened from JHS to SHS? We moved from 2.6 to 1.2 million. So what happened to that group of people in that category? And then from SHS to tertiary schools of all nature, we get to about 500,000. So 700,000 people have vanished. And maybe 10% or less may get jobs. So we have an explosive problem on our hands, not because it might only cause chaos, but the sovereign right of every individual as a Ghanaian must be something that we care about. We cannot hide our head in the sand, pretending that this is not an issue that would cripple our country. But we are people who are the black star, who should be shining, who should be leading in the world. So, the President is extremely worried about unemployment, and therefore, this 10 billion New Start program, the largest that the country has ever seen, or anything else. And this also came through effective burden sharing. Burden sharing in the effect that we then approach the banks and the banks agreed to provide 5 billion for private sector and small businesses for the next 3 years. We approached our international financial partners. They agreed for another 2 billion, that's 7 billion to support this effort. And government itself, through the E-levy, will do 1 billion cedis a year to ensure that this 10 billion package enables us to take care of our youth, which is really important to each one of us. Because really, at the center of our party is the reverence for the individual citizen. Because it is that human capital that makes the difference in all that we do. And it is something that our friend, Second Deputy Majority Leader mentioned, that we have all experienced. Because yes, you see all of us here like that, but we all had very humble beginnings, and therefore I grew up in Chebi. You go to the river, get your water, put your plantain in your pocket, and walk 1 mile from where we live to Chebi Government School. If you get to the school, because Brim is on the way and you might decide to swim all day instead of going to school. So that was what happened. And unfortunately, Dad decided that, oh, I have some son in Chebi, so let me find him. And that is what made the difference. The intervention that changed from you not being the smartest person in your Chebi school, because you didn't even go to school. You typically went swimming to find some okoto to catch. So that be it. And that changed the trajectory of my life to be standing here today, being the finance minister. And also, fortunately, had a strong mother who decided not to abort because she was young. And a young man from the royal family had come home for holidays, and one thing led to the other. And the poor woman was at fault for my dad's problems. But anyway, so this is it. So the issue of President Akufo-Addo insisting on senior high school is because he knows the transformation that would occur in that. But then it leads to human capital that must also be helped on its way forward to realize, who they are and what they can do for themselves and the nation. So over this period, we have spent all of this wonderful money to be able to bring our economy into some stability until COVID hit. And COVID, has been devastating globally, and therefore all of us have to recalibrate one way or the other how we move forward. But even in the middle of that confusion, you had a president who was clear in his mind, as he said, don't ever waste a crisis. To charge the Minister of Finance to come up with a transformation program, even in the middle of that. That's the Mother Cares Over Cancer program, so that we move our legs, we continue to look towards the sun, and find a way that when the COVID is over, we will be ahead of the game. So we have the issues of debt, we have the issues of employment, and we have critical matters issues that we have to deal with, which we all embrace because we want roads, we want digital infrastructure, we want fiscal infrastructure. And this is what we have brought to Parliament. What do we do about this? And the numbers are clear that the economy is shifting from the physical to the virtual, and therefore we need to be up ahead of the game. So we then brought to Parliament a 1.75% levy. As the Minister has mentioned, this is not the most egregious tax that you could get, but it really leads to the issue of inclusion of all of us to build our society and wherever we really want to go to transform this land. And that has been the subject of this debate. The question is, do we want to move to this new Jerusalem? Do we want to move to this new El Dorado so that we can, as a people, show that with our own resources, and there's plenty of it, as we see various buildings coming up in this country. And even as you look at 1B, 1F, I think we started the 181 or so 1B, 1Fs around. Nobody thought it was possible, of which 106 are complete around the districts, and 81 odd and more are happening. You can also see what happened to planting for food that has resulted, in a sense, in actually being able to export some food at certain points in time. So that really is a reason. Can we sustain our debt and pay for it ourselves so we don't go out borrowing so much? Can we have the resources to support employment, which is key and affects all of us, and really is very dispiriting and breaks down the dignity of our people? That is not the people that we are. And then can we support our infrastructure to be able to then increase productivity, move around the country, and create that modern society that we talk about? And that really, in a sense, is also now going to be elevated by AFCFTA, which is here, so that the issue of regionalizing our economy is now upfront with us. And that is a logistics hub, automobile hub, tourism hub, healthcare hub, etc. And then you see the modern economy that our forebears were confident that we will be able to construct in our land and show Africa and the world the way to go. So when people say, why E-levy and why you should reduce it? Well, we listened. We truly listened and said, well, maybe when something is new, you can have very negative thoughts on that. But we've heard a lot of the history of that, and that people, one way or the other, in opposition, would oppose anything, whether it's good or bad. But we all know, that the quantum normal effort, and so we do, sika, and effort. In here, I am sika, I am friend talk, idea, is here. So that really is what we talk about when we say we want this E-levy to ensure that we are masters of our destiny, that what happened with COVID will not have such a devastating effect because we'll have our own resources and we'll be able to guide ourselves in the way in which we've managed. So we've come a long way from being in the grips of the IMF to our freedom to be able to do what we do. And I think people forget what happened when we were in the IMF program. We couldn't pay for nurses and teachers. We couldn't hire anymore because there were restrictions on that. I mean, it's just really thinking you can go back to Egypt in a way in which we have forgotten how difficult and tenacious that master from Washington was. So we can deal with them for them to give us advice, but we need not ever get into IMF program. And if we don't do this E-levy, you're just pushing yourself in a way that would potentially end up in such a disaster. And there was a warning of that because last week was a very difficult week for the country. Last week we got downgraded by Fitch, ostensibly because they did not believe we could raise the revenues that we had forecasted because we were fighting about E-levy. But what does that mean when you get downgraded and the spreads widen for your bonds? Essentially, what we are saying is that if you go back to the market, you may pay about 500 basis points more, which means that if I borrowed $1 billion, I pay $50 million more each year. The bonds are usually 10 years, and so 50 times 10, that's $500 million a year. All because we were arguing and not being able to make up our mind on resources that we needed. So we need to moderate that because the consequences are quick. But I'm sure last week there were other things that also were difficult for us as a country. The Bogosu incident was not good for anybody. And then, of all places, Comoros to beat us in soccer. Now that that should not ever happen again. I hope the coach has been taking out like geography out of our country by now. So this is where we are with E-levy, and why we therefore need it, why we should be passionate about it. It will give us about 6.9 billion Ghana cedis, but it's really the beginning, because as you put these taxes in place, you sharpen the administration of it, and as the growth trajectory, as described by the minister, will be clear that is going to be an anchor and robustness of our ability to get the revenue mobilization that is required. Now, the e-levy, what does it cover? I'm sure we'll do a Q&A on that. So it's mobile money transfers between accounts on the same electronic money issuer, mobile money transfers from an account on one EMI to a recipient on another EMI, transfers from bank accounts to mobile money accounts, transfers from mobile money accounts to bank accounts, and bank transfers on a digital platform application which originates from a bank account belonging to an individual. Then also, what does it not cover? Cumulative transfers of 100 cedis per day by the same person. So if you transfer 100 cedis per day, there's no e-levy on that. I remember being Frenchnico of Action in Mind is the new improved name, where a lady said, Nasaka, 100 cedis for a dog. Na maybe see you 3,000 cedis a month for a junior transfer. In Jadana, 100 cedis exemption, no. I want to the audience a high dodo. It's a 30 cedis, 20 cedis now, a home. The Hokran Po, Nipatia, we should encourage that. But really, we have pegged it at 100 per day, which means 3,000 a month you will not touch. And I'm not sure there are any poor people below above the 3,000 level. So transfers between accounts owned by the same person would also not be touched by e-levy. Transfers for the payment of taxes, fees, and charges, and anything on the Ghana.gov platform would also not be charged. Electronic clearing of checks is exempt, and specified merchants, i.e. merchants whose payments to commercial establishments are registered with GRA for income tax and VAT purposes. And then transfers between the principal, master agent, and agent accounts would also not be charged. So really, in the end, that becomes, where the car meets the road. And what we are saying, in effect, is we are in looking at these issues of debt, of employment, of infrastructure. I think we should all look to support this. 1.75% of money that you send around is not the money that is going to kill you, but the cumulative effect of moving from 2.4 million to maybe 11, 12 million paying their part of our taxes will just create this pool of resources for us to be able, as a country, to continue to hold our heads high, of pride, of the three pillars of political independence, economic emancipation, and spiritual, I don't know what the word should be, also spiritual elevation would occur for us as a country. So let's really hold our MPs' feet to the fire to let them know that we understand who we are as a people, a proud nation who want to take their own way Yes, we haven't for a long time. And then there are issues of accountability. And in going through over Christmas to a Ninam, a Purpim, in Mind, and then Pram Pram in Greater Accra, it was very clear, as Honorable Martin mentioned, the issue of accountability. So how do I then come to you every quarter or to Parliament to show how those resources were used, to show what we have used E-levy for, so that we all move in step and begin, to reduce the cynicism on politicians and accountability for all of us. But when you pay, you are likely to have that voice to be able to yell, shout, and demand that. Yeah. So we have the Youth Start program as part of it going forward. We'll be able to sustain our debt and reduce it and pay our way through the issues of infrastructure, digital and physical. Shelley Roots will also be an opportunity to ask other questions that may be on your heart and to understand the sincerity of where government is coming from, within the limited resources, the amazing records that we have established, and what we need to do these 3 years, and then to continue to break the age, because we have been shown to be faithful with little, and therefore we do more. So, as the Bible says in Genesis, if these people can speak one language, then there will be no restraint to what we can do. So let's speak this one language of E-levy, let's make it pass, and there will be no restraint to where we'll go as a people. But we need the spirit of courage, of love, and self-discipline for us to get there. Thank you very much.
Ma Yamonsema, Honorable Minister for Finance, Honorable Ken Furiata, Honorable Bano be in 70 Bianoa, Obebo, Incomodi, Tofa, Ewochimu, you may be GTV, Fan Live, Joy News, Metro TV, Net2 TV, GH1 TV, CTTV, TV3, Sempa FM, Kesben Television, Happy FM, Afima FM, Home Based Television, Bright TV, 6.9 FM, Anansi Radio, Bosome FM, Opi FM, ETV, YFM, any stations a whole door I organ has a FM like. Baby, you know, so was in the city and agency as Habri, and Ka Otto and Sao Baby, I wanna, the Sabbath show so. Na mama yet the Akasamuna bro, me who are brand TV or share, Tomata, their short sleeve, Ewa Hasi, them so no baby kind. Na mpalto yemfa Akasamuno, Emma, Penny Bako. Yemfa Akasamuno Penny Bako. If you say with you, Bako, Mienu, Miensa, any and nine, and the opening. But of a mic, let's start to feature my opening. But of all the I know actually baby ufi na agency bi ana sem bi se bi ho a na o de ato mpanimfo anim sani mpanimfo e de anidie ama ye nyina na ye di nkomo no agency bi a ye be gi ato anidie ni obuo e na wo se pasa akwan no so o da ba bi ni se ko de ana na ho de o to sa frame se ni ndu mo mic ni baby e wo no ni se be ne kwa so pani pa to kasa.
Good afternoon. But I'm a person that takes Chidaka.
But your friend say,
the friend is Dr. Isaac Osafo Champion.
Dr. Isaac Osafo, but Dr. America,
But I'm.
But your cousin. Dr. Isaac
Osafo Champion.
Osafo Champion.
I am the same, many of our Kenya in America, E-levy. And he said, E-levy, the discussion is near being now, or me must be moody. I have a rebel of mine. But issues in to do on ma, send ya in the church, it means any fine to let's borrow mpanimfoɔ a wɔha no mo, especially honorable Ken Ofoyata, sɛ ɔka sɛ tax tua wɔ hɔ yi 77 mpɛ bi asa ɛyɛ ya. But mepɛ sɛ mede to dwa sɛ the police opportunity a me E-levy m'ani gye ho paa ne sɛ yɛwɔ nkurɔfoɔ bi wɔ ɔman yi mu a artisans in particular, carpenterfoɔ, masonfoɔ, electricians, ɔmo bɛbɔ dan so ma wo adwuma no ɔmo bɛyɛ biribiara ma wo nso tax a wɔmo tua no 77 mpɛ bi asa wonhunu direct tax a yɛtua eti wɔn adwene mu no E-levy no even though ɛbɛma nkurɔfoɔ bi ɔmo tua direct taxes already no ɔmo bɛsan tua bi no but saafoɔ ne nnɔɔso nti no lefoa so na mmom suggestions wey na mpɛ sɛ nka mede to dwa
Pacho yetio.
sɛ aban bɛtumi a anka yɛbɛnya a separate account yɛ a E-levy sika a ɛreba no ɛno hɔ nom na ɛbɛkɔ ne yɛhunu sɛ ebi a bosome biara no saa sika yi no na nkɔnkɔfra the consolidated fund a ebi a ɔmbɛyi sika no sɛ ahokyɛ bi aba baabi nti yɛde fa akɔyɛ bibi foforɔ na mmom no yɛhu sɛ saa fotuo yi sika egu mu ni na sɛ ɛba ne sɛ wɔsi yɛ biribi a yɛde yɛn nsa kɔbɔ mu a no yɛde yɛ no yɛde yɛ na second suggestion nso ne sɛ sɛ yɛ possible a nka bosome mmiɛnsa biara aban ɛmma yɛnhunu E-levy sika no a yɛadedeɛ no dodoɔ a yɛnya ne dwumadeɛ a aban de sika no ayɔ nti nipa ne sɛ kwan na wɔse ɔde yɛ a akwan a yɛde ayɛ ni it will be on the ground for people to appreciate it sɛ ebi a ɛyɛ nneɛma a ɛwɔ nkrataa so a ɔmayɛ sɛ ɔmode bɛyɛ no ɛno ni a yɛbɛhunu na sɛ ɛne yɛtuaeɛ no na yɛde yɛ ni na me koraa no mehu sɛ yɛse ɔmo ɛtua 100 Ghana cedis no sɛ wo transfer to sika bɛ ɛduru 100 a wontua hwee sɛ yɛ possible a anka ebi tumi send sika as much as 3,000 10,000 ɛwɔ mobile money so nti ebetumi nso aba ne sɛ bi a yɛbɛtumi ama sika no edu mpɛmpɛnsoɔ bi a saa level no yɛnkyagye nkɔ bio sɛnea ɛbɛyɛ a anka obi a otu bi sɛne bɛyɛ 10,000 a ɔnkɔ nkɔtua saa 1.5 na ɔnso sɛ sika no yɛ bebree ma no
Mate wasɛm na sɛ mpatɔ mmeɛmmɔ nsɛm ma no momeɛmmɔ nsɛm ma no ɔse ɔno adi kan ɔno deɛ ɔsusu sɛ asɛmpa mmom ɛnka ɔsusu sɛ aberɛ bia no yɛmbu ho akontaa sɛ mpo no yɛbɛnya account foforɔ bi na nkɔ consolidated fund mu a yɛmfɛ ngu mɛma mpanimfoɔ akyerɛ sɛ mmara ma ho kwan sɛ ɛnyɛ ne saa a ɔsan so kyerɛ sɛ nka bosome mmiɛnsa biara no yɛmbu ho akontaa na mpo ɛrekɔ soro no nka de abroni frɛ no cap anaa threshold bi bɛwɔ hɔ anka yɛde aka mpamkyɛ mode akasamu no ama nipa ɔtɔ so mmienu anaa ɔpanin a akasamu no wɔ hɔ mpakyɛ ɔkasa yɛni bere yɛhwɛ yɛ wɔ tv ne radio ahodoɔ so nti mpakyɛ mpamkyɛ ne microphone no wɔ fam kakra
yɛfrɛ me ama buche
ama
buche
ama mpakyɛ ɔyɛ dɛ adwuma
for Ghana Library Authority.
Ghana Library Authority.
Tewu of TUC.
Tewu, okay.
Yes. So, every say E-levy ni now come say my suggestion is that 100 citizens, which is meant for those at the, let's say, the poorest level, let's raise it from between 300 to 500. If I say, oh, say, I'm going to be school, we want to send them 200 or 300, for them also pay 1 or 2 emergencies, that will crop up. So I'm suggesting that let's raise it from 100 between 300 to 500.
I want to kind of check a crab, mamma. Mr. Anna, we kidding it.
Now, me say, yeah, raise 100 now, yeah, them few. Let's say, for those at the grassroots car, yeah, raising
Embrace
between 3 to 500.
Between 3 to 500.
Yes.
I'm a butcher, Tewu. Pacho Matimida was it. Akasamuni and Fanny for Totsomi and San Femano. Na Yeti Nasem. Pacho say about Tuntumno way. I was almost sanitizing. Timomo sanitizing, we say. They are sanitizing the Pacho issue. Not Pacho Kaza.
The Pacho, your friend, Kwame Bafo.
Kwame
Bafo.
Kwame Pacho, Juma.
Me a driver.
We a driver. Pacho, it's you.
Me Kasa, Bifi. I just saw about you, I have for. Koforidua. Na me moment de me dwen say E-levy no enka beboa yen na ade ba ko a eha me ba ko ne say Ghana, ye kasa sadia we beboya, na ye dia ye amanyosem. Ye de ye amanyosem MPP for sorry, I was say NDC for the enemy. NDC for sorry, I was say MPP for the enemy. Na Yura, back on what film, na memfa ne currency, President Mills, what the VAT buy. Na VAT no de buy no. Asama ye kan say na MPP for say VAT ne ye, be higher gene, be ha o mu say. Enso so VAT no buy no, MPP buy no wantwam otoa so. Enti say VAT no buy na watimi aba na watoa so dia. Say sa E-levy so ba. Dachi ankwama bia NDC for so ba so a. Omo se enye o, omo mfoa so. Enso nya ade a sa ade we ba, omo betwam. Enti mesrɛ ye nyina ya moa. Na se ye boa, na se sa E-levy ba. Na se betumi aboa, na ye manom, ye nuanom, obi a obihia adwuma ane ade atumi aboa de a. Ye mfoa so na ye moa. Na asɛm baako ha me ne sɛ yewura abambe babin ɔse ɔbɛgye saa deɛ ɔyɛ atum nti ɔtu kwan akɔhwɛ ne ho yareɛ nti yɛsrɛ no ɔntena ase ne anyi ntum na ewie a wakɔ n'asɛm.
Kwame ɔyɛ driver ɛgye so wo se wo deɛ ɔgye tum na emu politics no na yɛnyae owura bagbin ni ha na emu akwantuo no otum yɛntumi nka nsi so bia sɛ ɔbɛgye atum nti na ɔyɛ ne saa no de yɛntumi nka ne saa yɛnhwɛm ne yɛnka ɔman ne ho asɛm na sɛnea wɔaka yɛfa politics no ɛnto nkyɛn yɛbɛgye adwenkyerɛ mmienu na mama mpanimfoɔ ayi ano pakyɛ ɔpani okura akasamu no hwan na yɛkɔ ne hɔ
yes
ɔpani okura akasamu no hwan na yɛkɔ ne hɔ
yɛfrɛ no nana sɛe
nana
Pacific Kofodia yɛdi kan mɛma mo afa aba ɛba honorable baafi pesua so na mayɛ ade paa sɛ ɔbaeɛ na program papa bɛ mɛsrɛ mo sɛ moma tii ne nɔɔso borɔfo no dɔɔso dodo ɛfiri sɛ mefiri akra obi ma ne me sɛ mefa adeɛ kɔma ne mɔda wɔ market ɔbɛbɛpɛ bi ɔno maame ne ka sɛ afei kora yɛabrɛ wo ne borɔfo akɛseɛ yɛhia mo nyɛ firi hyɛ ɛtɛli na da wotumi ana mehu sɛ na madam ɛsla na na ɛwɔ so na nso maa me adeɛ a ɔnyɛ bɛyɛ ade papa metu mirika a mede kaa speed a mede baeɛ lucky no bɛdi yɛ na na madam so de adeɛ no akɔkyi ɛti mɛsrɛ mo adeɛ na moyɛ no ɛho hia na no yɛ a honorable ɛyɛkopoku na ɔyɛ press conference kyi na ɔka ɔkyerɛ mu ɛtu MPP foɔ so a maa no borɔfo a market foɔ esu yɛn nso na etua tax no wokɔ market a adwadifoɔ na etua tax no o ɔho dɛm etua no nipa dodoɔ sɛbi wɔn wɔ nimu adeɛ no kakraa bi ɔso te adeɛ n'ase na yɛn a yɛn te aseɛ no dodoɔ no na ɛnkɔ sukuu nkɔ akyire.
Nasɛ yɛda wase yɛate aseɛ na nkɔmmɔ no ankasa wɔ ho biribi anaa
ose
nkɔmmɔ no ankasa wɔ ho asɛm bi anaa
deɛ na ɔka ne sɛ mɛsrɛ mo sisi yɛ a sɛ dadeɛ no kɔ no aka mo de bɛma MPs no na nka ɔpɛsua so no na wɔn akɔ na ɔkyerɛkyerɛ mu ɛma nkurɔfoɔ ate aseɛ yie because recently honorable bɛɛfi yɛ town hall meeting bi ɔkokɔ mmea ma adeɛ no yɛ fine eti ka mo bɛyɛ ne saa na nka MPs no ɔkɔ ne pɛsua so a na ɔorganize no akyerɛ mu yie masɛm ano no meda wase
nasɛ ma menka biribi kakra bi kyerɛ wo ɛnɛ mpanimfoɔ akasa nyinaa ɔno ɔba afanyɛ ɔfomake ɔka afante honorable eslo so ɔka no borɔfo ka ne twi san sɛ TV stations de bebree fa no borɔfo ne a megyina ha yi borɔfo ne fante nyinaa maka bi finance minister so sɛ na mekae no owie na ɔbɛbɔ ne tɔfo a ɔno so wobɛkyerɛ n'asɛm nyinaa tɔfa mu ɔtwi MPs so bebree ago MPs bebree a mohu wɔn wɔ ha yi deɛ awoka no ɛno ana ɔmoyɛ ɔmo kɔ aprɔbɔ ɛkyerɛkyerɛ mu wɔ baabi a wɔsɛ ɔmo kyerɛ mu nyinaa nti wasɛm no yɛate na so pɛm pakyɛ ɔmɛfa deɛ twa toɔ mmienu na mama mpanimfoɔ ayi ano ɔpani a wokura kasa mu tuntum no wobɛkasa ansa na deɛ wokura kɔkɔɔ no akasa pakyɛ ɔkasa
yo mpatɛ yɛfrɛ me set agye kwa bi
seth dɛ adwuma na ɔyɛ
meyɛ teacher ni
seth ɔyɛ teacher seth yɛtie o
yo masɛm ne sɛ ɛtoɔ deɛ wontumi ntena ma mu kasa wontua toɔ ɛtoɔ deɛ yɛ yɛnim sɛ no ne yɛde kyerɛ man but deɛ ha dwen ne sɛ da biara yɛn sɛ obi akɔdi sika for example auditor general report say 12 billion ayera but we are chasing 7 billion da bɛn yɛbɛda nyane wɔ Ghana ha yɛbɛte sɛ obi akɔdi Ghana sika na yɛgyina kɔgyina court abua no fɔ de no akɔtom anaasɛ yɛagye sika no afiri no hɔ it is alleged foɔ yi nkɔgyina court hɔ ɛma asɛm no nyɛ foolish case The tossing you does it mean say your former sector a peer tax rodono E-levy bay. You didn't pay the can one moment here. Yes, so you bet here more now. And I bet here, yes, so.
Me pacho mate di chat to meko oba no kura microphone kokon na say about minister pacho orura say teacher say person oti say what titi no from say auditor general say 12 billion ayira na 12 billion ayira dey na wo koje no na wo be 7 billion wo E-levy mu pacho no e be pe anu yi kakra e wo wan kasa wo da yake ansa na edi kan no ago ansa na edi kan no na nkuntabuo adwenkyerɛ baako ne sɛ nka bɛyɛ bosome mmiɛnsa bi a yɛmbu sɛ ampagyeeɛ na wei ne ɛdan wɔ adwuma mene sɛ mɛba wo hɔ nkae ne deɛ yɛ adwenkyerɛ nti mmienu wei mɛba wo hɔ abɛgye adwenkyerɛ mpakyɛ deɛ twa toɔ na maba minista hɔ
mpanimfoɔ mema mo nyinaa adwo masɛm baako a mepɛ sɛ meka ne sɛ saa adeɛ wei ɛyɛ adeɛ papa paa na mepɛ sɛ mehu sɛ nti a moantumi anyɛ town hall meetings yi ansa na ɔpanyin bi akɔ na asan apɛ ebiara ne education die mpamotɔ mambo mi di yɛfrɛ me Joyce Yosinjan meyɛ retired teacher biribi wɔ hɔ na yɛ papa sɛ yɛ yɛnim sɛ CST bɛn yɛwɔ so much opposition nti biribi papa sɛ ba na wɔ sɛ wodi kan na yɛn a yɛtumi kasa yi aka brɛ enti no yɛsrɛ sɛ biribi papa sɛ ba a momfa mmra bɔtom no na yɛn start mfi a ɛho ansa na mo kodu mpanimfoɔ mu afei na toll a ɛwɔ ɔman yi mu nyinaa mogya sika no esuam pa a polisi ɛkeka bɔ mu sɛ
ɛmfa ne sɛ mmara bɛma wo ho kwan ma yɛbi account ago anaa mompɛ sɛ no mompɛ sɛ yɛbɛyi ano yɛsrɛ mo menti ano yie no mene sɛ deɛ di kan ne sɛ mmara ma ho kwan sɛ yɛmbi account foforɔ na nkɔtɔ mu a ɛnkɔ consolidated fund no mu anaa ɛna adwenkyerɛ baako no sɛ nka bosome mmiɛnsa bi a yɛbɛtumi abu ho akonta sɛ sɛ neɛnya sei ne yɛde ayɛ anaa nkae ne adwenkyerɛ na mmom deɛ aka yɛ na kyerɛ sɛ ɛnokorɛ anaasɛ the auditor general di kan hu ne mfitiase afei na ɛna ayi ɛm sɛ Gladys ana Grace Joyce say in the future na the aka wɔ anim no yɛmfi ase yɛmfi fam ansa na de akɔ soro nyɛ sɛ ɛsoro ansa na de aba please ampatwɔ nka wotumi yi ano kakrama yɛ a kɛbɛre mo yɛmfrɛ sɛ monkyia minister responsible for finance
Yo, that's you. What I said, Dr. Isaac, start say, young artisans, own theatre, or the, young show make sure so be sure. Now, way back home. And I talk, I did the first time make sure on to say, I did Ghana card for no, for my GRA. Next year, one war at the tax identification numbers pay 5.5 million. Any day, Ghana card in the database come on to another 15.5 million. In here, monodoc, 60,000 doctors and lawyers and architects and whatever own theatre. In the any masons near to something, well, yeah, Casa P or radio, so near, I don't know. I want to change what I'm born in the countrymen, also here. And I want to tell us Enti E-levy deɛ, sɛnea aban ne digitalization a Vice President ne Minister of Communication yi, ebetumi akyerɛ nyinaa sɛnea ɛbɛyɛ a wɔbɛhu nea obiara yɛ. Enti very easy to talk about the artisans and masons. Now, once we say yeah, if you want in India, the moment you want there, then we'll be able to account for them and do that. I think the issue of separate consolidated account, any of the SSA, what is about. I think what is really in the end key. Okay, they call around the NIPA in accountability on a quarterly basis, and I think that should be done. In the and threshold, I think those will be administrative issues. If we say, start a new tax, NIPA people say, on bed dodge any day, and due to me whom year, then you adjust the tax to be able to do that. And now because is it Amabuchi or can't say you move at the exemption of 300 cities and could do 300, 500. And the current we say 100 cities no seven HSA beer was with salary and now the sky won't same no 3,000. And if you count 3,000 no and just sure say a dose now 300 to 500 no so seven and now over now you're not it won't affect you. There's a chance to avoid the tax. And I am driver is it Kwame? Kwame can speak of once and the bomb fireman and send it there who betonum. And send out kind of taxes easier. Opposition back and say one pay and so on bar one term. You continue send your the next you debate a Juma as a saying. Now, such Auditor General some Auditor General report, no better wants 12.2 billion and once the IRA. But true to the matter, and yet, so what's your report now? What to me who said 10 billion out of that are collections that are going on for loans and collections that GRA is also continuing. And GRA numbers also, they sometimes penalty, they multiply it by 3. And so they just a and a young of fire, yes, sir. But still, no one be of as I said, encourage, send a bear, are collected. And then another 1.8 billion was what they term irregularities. Say, yeah, MMDC, a tier of 300 cities and did not fill the correct papers. And yes, it's Sikana year 14. And to Oshemua, you won't get that alarm. And to Sika Yekano, a Sika Yekia. You tier taxes, no. And I was saying, now you let me be say about how. Now, that's why when you say, they call baby to sell London, this within the idea. One tax rate probably 55 or 60%. And there's always a time to start. You start E-levy year. Once 1 year to my when you now have a next now also over here will be a free. Auntie Joyce and Sister Bibi Papa say, other than a man. I mean, not your bantam. Now, told books are somewhere walking. You and a very million, 78 million. And we are going to lose from that. And the question really for us is that sir, what's the total money or how many move the heat and all of that, you know. And I have to say, na di grandpo, as a sea guy, send a bear, several sorry for Juma, and Yafina, watch not traffic move for another hour or so. You know, any BBA a pata. Enti Onyamibwa, E-levy, a go through. Na real roads are of the highways, you know, and no, not really everything say, yeah. In the total, only but a 6-lane highway, consisting of this Yama and San Yako. Then a very short track, near the Montana, move, Abre, now you do in Chicho near the near Jaina, near life, and so I have better. Anything you just say, at the Kojo, I can.
Minister, I say, you better call for second round of questions. You better 3 round of questions. But I say, KTU Council Chair, Professor Pori, I will ask you a question on charging the crap. But I say, Prof, who are say, no question of person charging, but your mammy will not have a microphone in your mouth. Prof, I say, you be fierce or Prof, number for a 9 account, Mapa 9 account, now, yet to me, ATO, Prof, what's your ATO?
I can be even where the self and Tragona. What can be a company? Mr. Abano said, on share MPs, this is NCC, Kitty, na one more and the Biana and Tokwa radio soon. If the NCC is one of their jobs. And now, this is, and yes, what you want to do, so be a year back. When you 5 minutes, go and construct here, because now in the career, we are cracking, and then Matthias here more than near a radio soon. As someone messed them one. Because yes, I know, won't you, before say, yeah, and before say, yeah, where are you free? You to me can be papa, as if you are to be a baby. It is our arms of government now. One vessel, Obama, Ademudia, one the Boyo, Edumano. Now on much better crossing class. Now, Obia, at the Medati.
That's it. But when you crack as a move, if it's a senior question, Kakao Ben has it, Kakraman and Kababuan. Keep a 24 9 microphone more, 90 almost 1 month.
Hello.
But I'm going to so for you.
If I'm sure your friend, Reverend Dr. Michael Usutego. Mestre, senior. Never try. Senior Prof. Kayan. Many again. Kaye ya so for ni say. Eni pa dodo na hye yase. Etika mesre. Se adepa se badia. Ka yamfra so for ni nyina. Ni yin obi nkyire yemu. Na yanti ase ye na yanso yetimi kwa. Ye particular wie ye Yusuf at minutes. Ni yetimi di kyire members me gidi se. Abeko. Medamas.
So for kind of Maka Bible, Christocracy, emphasis at the Emma, they are a war Caesar. Then there's a told to Yano Crambono. If you are so Bible, Onion. But your penny blue shirt or red tie, young corner, after Mammy, you cry my kidney about penny. Mammy, what you? Yes, Mammy, I'll cry my kidney.
You me that.
Una toss me.
Me pacho, your friend, my get Mr. Market woman. Miss Ramo, so, Master Kakra say. Adeɛ yɛ aban bi abɛn me so na mente aseɛ koraa ɛna me baa ha na makyerɛkyerɛ mu na mate aseɛ ɛti sɛ yɛanyere yɛn ho na yɛkɔ IMF yi a woahwɛ yɛ koraa ne yɛakɔka kyerɛ yɛ sɛ yɛnkɔgye homosexual tom ɛfiri sɛ yɛn nsa akɔhyɛ ɔmo anum yɛnni hwee ka na mmom nea mensrɛ kakra ne sɛ adeɛ bi a wo starte a yɛn kakra ɛfiri sɛ yɛn yɛ mmaa yɛkɔ nkran kɔfa nneɛma a Meja and cry for no drum ye mobile money in ye de ma wom. Eti yada Roma, ye chiaha, na udi man on ye almost to the back, you know, better chiato. Etika, munya di bibi kakrama ye. Did ye ditum pa? It is a yesrosi a back what I am. Or tranquil, yesro, yako catcher yourself, only homosexual too. And yes, sir, or yes, that's what I do. Eti the other can be as a see a diso. Eti no yempe eti mrana mudi abane de mi se na menti ase enso na me ba ha no mati ase eti mi ko dwa ase mede kɔ na mmom yɛsrɛ mo sɛ mode yɛ start yi ka monyɛ biribi kakra ma yɛn made sra no no meda mo ase.
Minister Pacho Kasa, merchant accounts, maame no me nuanom ma edidi dwa. Merchant accounts. Omo so betu ato ni bia na so omo de no. Mo di kan yen hyehyɛ sɛ merchant account no omo de no enka ho bi. Obe yie no ama. Opani ba kokura na fi we wa ase. Na ma gya no yes opani.
Honorable Medase, your friend Honorable Charles Edu Asino. May I elected assembly member. I signed the national president for GAM, Ghana Association of Assembly Members. Honorable
President of Ghana Association of
Assembly Members.
Pacho
E-levy adepa. Na yehu ni say approach na yede yare no na emwa na me ma me ni kasa no. Oka say anka yemfa fiscal fi ase downward me hu ni say ya Ghana ha ba bia. Enti with this na me papa ni kasa say yema MCs no kwan a omo betima ya adwuma no. Say more resources yen assembly members na esa ni say your electoral area bia no you be free community meetings, town hall meetings like this, and the community members will be present. Say na be ya you betimi a church muye. And what we need from leadership and say government a little education on this E-levy and any other government initiative bia or the bebano. Say mama in that education, we the assembly members who are on the grassroots now, you bet me I empower it more than say you be the top approach. And at that biano so no, your information bia you be my biano, you the fact NCA brofono any advertisement or radio so no. I am papi no and cause any yeah you bet my friend nipa nanya no one-on-one. Na yen na kasa because o kase o de kofa Adum FM a nipa dodo ahina etie Adum FM. Obi wo ha that time on tie Adum FM. O tie different radio. Sa advert na koso Adum FM. On tie and as e koso UTV a o hwe UTV o hwe ebia city TV. And mo fa yen assembly members we are the grassroots. Thank you very much.
Opani we dey me so ban bisa wo fo aso na wo fo aso.
Me fo aso.
Any pa church me po bi on fo aso.
Me fo aso so was some count.
Okay. So far as obi oje mic no fo aso na nso me po bi on fo aso kra. Obi on fo aso kra na mo fa mic ne ma no ye nti ono so na sem. Boko. E pese e te o de nti aban pa ni fo aba ni se e pese e te ade ahodo no. Se me pa cho fa mic ne ma obi a o se ono fo aso. No no so nkyere na adwen. Na nye so omo fo aso nko adwen na yeti.
Yo, your friend me.
Ago. But I won't force and I won't force.
Me fo aso na me sam fo aso. Me ba aya se bisa. Me patro me ba. Patro me fo aso.
Opening se abotre. Nipa be ye du edi kan kasa no. Obi a fo aso. Ye pa obi ono fo aso na tie ono so na dwen kire. Me fa mic na mani for we tie no so ono. Opani, what's home for us? Ameboa. And it's the entire home for us. The entire one at Casa 49 again.
Hello, good afternoon.
Afternoon. But your brother,
Benjamin Darko, I'm a student. My tree is not really that good, so I'll communicate purely in English. I have initially I wrote down 10 questions, but I'll narrow it down to just 4. My first question is, Benjamin.
Okay, take your time. Are you one of the persons who disagrees with the
Yes, please.
So explain to us why you disagree, what you disagree with.
Yeah,
so
that is
can
what
respond to.
I'm explaining in the form of questions. The
Go ahead.
first question is, how do we categorize the E-levy? Is it another income tax, a capital tax, a sales tax, a payment tax, or all of the above? However, one avoids this tax when they opt for cash payment. That is the first question. The second one is, corruption is a major problem that only receives lip service in Ghana. The Auditor General indicates that about 12 billion cedis remain unaccounted for over the last few years. I go.
Ben, Go ahead, we're listening. And then
Over the last few years, why E-levy only rakes in 6.9 billion rather than recovering 12 billion? So why are we not going after the monies that have been lost due to corrupt acts?
And the
The
last
third
one.
question is, proceeds from E-levy are pegged towards road and transportation development, youth employment, security, and the growth of the IT infrastructure in the state. The question is, what happens to previously earmarked levies? Communication tax, sanitation levy, ESLA. How have they improved their earmarked sectors? What is the guarantee that E-levy will be used for its intended purpose?
Thank you, Ben.
The
Ben, thank
2021
you.
population.
Ben, it's okay. Thank you. You gave us 3. I deliberately sought for you, but you gave us 3. Can we get... Hello? Gentleman in the jacket, please. You also Oh, Chairman, please, go ahead.
Oh, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, my name is John Ewua, the CEO of Ghana Association of Banks. Since the bill was laid in Parliament and the discussions have been ongoing, as a trade body, we've been engaging with the minister and his team. I think the very final engagement was just last Monday, where we had a confirmation that a person-to-person bank transfers will not be in scope for the levy. But during the minister's presentation, I saw that the scope in services included person-to-person bank transfers. I just need a confirmation whether there's going to be a subsequent amendment that will factor in the agreement that the minister had with the banking industry. What was agreed was that the minister will maintain an administrative right or privilege to reintroduce or scope in person-to-person bank transfer in the event that following the implementation of E-levy, there is a significant platform shift from the Momo platform to the banking industry. And we agree with the minister on that. So we just believe that, or we are re-emphasizing the agreement we had with the ministry that the person-to-person bank transfers should be scoped out. Thank you very much.
Johnny Wu, Chief Executive of Association of Bankers. Thank you very much for joining us and for the thoughts that you have shared with us. Minister, I'm going to invite you to respond to these ones, and then I'll come for the very final batch. So, Mr. Johnny Wu and the Bankers Association want clarity on the person-to-person transfer exemption. Benjamin wanted some guarantees. He says he's opposed to it because he's not sure what guarantees we can give that the money will be used for the purpose. And then I think the other comments were requests that other groups should be factored into the education. Minister.
Thank you very much indeed. John, I think you should rest assured about the discussions that we had. Benjamin, you know, the issue for me, Benjamin, is that we should really think very holistically. Benjamin, I'm addressing your question. John, I think I've answered yours. But Benjamin, I have 3 or 4 questions here. Just say you what type of tax it is, whether it's income, capital, or whatever. And then the last 2 years, corruption and the Auditor General's report. I'm a town already. And then the proceeds from other earmarked funds. And I will see what type of guarantee do we have. I think those are all fair questions, but honestly, if you look at the enormity of the problems we have to move to another level. And I think you need to concede that the economy is changing towards virtual economy, e-commerce economy, and that tax handle should be brought into, our arsenal of taxes that are required. other earmark numbers, and you know that we are running a budget deficit. You know that the impact of the COVID was literally about 25 billion. How does a country support that type of contraction in its economy? You also know that compared to other West African or African countries, Ghana, even at this point, was able to eat a positive growth rate. You know what we did during the COVID time that no other African country did. We have about 300,000 people that died on the continent. Ghana was 1,379. So you need to give credit where credit is due and be able to advise yourself as to the integrity of the numbers and what that means to you when you are doing your analysis. And where there is praise, there should be. Where there is caution, there should be. So issues of quarterly reporting to encourage transparency is what matters. Anything I'm starting at the end of the cancer, I can't know my effect. Muka Bruchia, Nama Nieji, Unim taxes I want to India, Oko Hoya Fesano. Now about Columbia, on the two years, and unnecessary on to dream. I did a Charles and Margaret, and so the issue of a gradual approach to the taxes. And only I think you're very near, as I say. But I mean, for a cancer, if you have never yet been do any happy, and I mean, so you're quite around that. Yet, that same assembly on cano. Internet, a friend saying, telcos no cocaine. Then you bay, I want the no back for more. Now, a relieve citizens. Now, so, here. Yɛde bɛyɛ adwuma a yɛka yɛ no sɛ employment ne yɛn debt ne infrastructure no na still a yɛn nsa ka sɛnea ɛbɛyɛ a yɛbɛtumi ayɛ adwuma no. Margaret nso ka sɛ yɛnyɛ something a little bit more gradual. Na Margaret ebi a ɛsɛ sɛ wo ne Mr. Benjamin Dako nso kasa na wokyerɛ no sɛ ayɛ mefadeɛ no and you be a copra. You don't know, the technical normal, what type of tax in idea on drink near the back of the basic, the IMF. And the announce now, before also a friend of a merchant account. There's a merchant account no register of the area, not just and no, you are exempt from it because now they have the capacity here. On between attracted once a year. And going through the merchant account, you become part of the formal economy and you also get exempted from that. In Canona, Minister.
The Incomodino Eba every year, the Bisa Anapentra, it's up 4 and 9 and a baby. Medical Fabaco, the Crat Abram, yes, Dr. Isaac Asari. The question is 1.75 no ebeba beka dia telcos no edge that no ho ana menim say what but communications minister mesra so obeba na oba be chim say 1.75 no eba beka be 2% na telcos no that no mo je no ho ana telcos ni dia no e be free ho the communications minister mefro mo abi ya no obani pato wo kasa wi na obema yo wa kasa na nkama ye nuano mo ma mi no eso akasa na afia de nkomodi na be mi emfa wo fiase.
Yo, Medindi, Dr. Samuel Amponsa. I'm a management consultant and I'm a reverend minister as well. Maybe I know you as in the San Esanya. I believe strongly, say, Ghanaians are discerning people. But the policy be say, na yantimi and Remu year. Eventually, the opposition party will take over the argument. Na Obi Kase, parliamentarians are communicating the change to the people. But we know, sir, we have 50% share in the parliament. So eventually, when you want to communicate this message to the people, you are targeting 50%. And then the communication minister, if there's any communication channels or distributive channels via what they are talking say, E-levy tomorrow, how is she going to drive this communication thing to the people of Ghana. Now, yeah, say if there are any structure, these schools in the crowd, when the students Howard, obetumi akɔfi akɔkyerɛ ne maame. Enti yɛntumi nkyerɛ a bring on board. Enti yɛma nkyerɛ mu no kɔ anim a megye di sɛ yɛbɛgye atom na yɛbɛtumi ayɛ ho adwuma.
Yɛdase dɔk, yɛdase. Pakyɛ ɔpani okura kasa.
Hello.
Ma otwa to ne tie o.
Hello.
Hello.
The family Prince Kofi Ban areas Cape. I am important move for. Akyinye bi a aba hɔ wɔ saa E-levy ho. Mmɔfra ne mpanyinfoɔ a gya yankɔ school ne adeɛ yɛ wɔ fam na yɛnte aseɛ no. Na wɔn de asoma me sɛ mebɛbi sɛ ɔpanin nankasa. Na me mfɛmrɛ wo. Deɛ ɛteɛ ne sɛ, wɔn kyerɛ sɛ mebisa sɛ, yɛsɛ wo sɛ ne mobile money a deɛ a yɛbɛtew. Mebisa sɛ, sika dodoɔ ahe ɛna onipa ne sɛnde a mobɛtumi ate. Na deɛ mobɛtumi ate no, dodoɔ sɛn ɛna mobɛtumi ate afiri saa sika ne so. Ɛno pɛ ɛna hia. Saa 20% ne 7.5% no wɔn nte ase. Tumi misa sika atwa sika.
Okay.
A mobɛte afiri so no na mbɛka kyerɛ wɔn.
Me pakyɛ yɛate yɛdase paa. Na pakyɛ wofi yi na ɛbaeɛ ɔpani. Wofi yi na ɛbaeɛ. Pakyɛ ɔmate yɛdase. Me pakyɛ yɛpɛ mmaa etwa toɔ mmienu. Mmaa etwa toɔ mmienu. Meka obi na manka bibi ɛnyɛ mmaa etwa toɔ mmienu. Yɛnya mmaa ɛno na yɛpɛ sɛ etie. Ɔbaa baako gyina ha sɛ ana pamkyɛ momfa akasamu no mu ɔbaa na ɔwɔ ha no. Pamkyɛ momfa akasamu no mu ɔbaa no mesrɛ mo a momfa mu ɔbaa no na yɛntie no. Mesrɛ mo a ne deɛ mu. Na yɛwie a ɔbaa bi ama ne nsa so no nti ɔpani ma ɔbaa no na yɛntie no. Mesrɛ mo a ne deɛ mu. Na yɛwie a ɔbaa bi ama ne nsa so no nti ɔpani yɛwie a ɔbaa bi ama ne nsa so nti na mede awie o. Madam.
mepa ɛna 2% na atɛko so ne te no ɔmɔde ma aban ahe ne kom na bio nso adɛn nti na aban no ɛnte saa tax yi ɛmfi tɛko no hɔ because ɔmo na nya sika ne bebree ebia me maame akosua Florence ebedi afi ansa ne mama ne 10 million enti saa afe no na mimi nsani sika maame a ɛbɛte saa tax na fi so a ɔman Ghana yɛnkɔ yɛnim wɔ mputunwuma mu ana meda ase.
Her question, does the state make from the telco charges? And why are we not going that route as a citizen? Madam.
Pacha, Mr. Medi Florence is a female from her. I'm saying, before I say, you're a cocody bruno, yet they say, Honorable Minister, Finance Minister, or modified E-levy, no, and I was saying, I submitted a parliament. It has a Missani said, I didn't know, your bogu, you come modify, you send your parliament. Into where you are, yeah, judging, no, there's some quiet modifications in your parliament. And now, sir, you're too much like a voice, a mupo, you're betting to Montias here.
That's it. So what is the impact of this town hall meeting on the processes in Parliament? Opening me, they want a baby, but first,
The name Abraham Damtelengon.
Abraham.
Yeah, I'm a public servant.
Okay, Abraham, you too.
Now, Mestre Namaka said, I thought there be a policy implementation communication, no? Be a how my Ghana. Ohe E-levy a policy and I said, Bibi yet the abuat memufua or my Ghana. Then some say home comodiano and to said your near circle. And the mestre say, Yenyanum DCs and MCs or Wahano,
wɔn mmɔden asɛ saa nneɛma ɔbɛfa na wɔayi so don broadcast ɛyɛ community information system ɛwɔ mpatamu mpatamu ɛwom no na wɔnkyerɛkyerɛ nsɛm no mu yie ɛmfa ma ɔmanfoɔ sɛdeɛ ɛbɛyɛ a ɔmanfoɔ no bɛte aseɛ deɛ ɛtɔ so mmienu a meka ho asɛm ne sɛ ɛyɛ a telcos no deɛ yɛtua no yɛ adeɛ a nkurɔfoɔ di ho yɛ yie ɛsiane sɛ ɔhwɛ aman bi so a mobile money ɛwɔ Kenya ɛyɛ free wosɛnde a ɛyɛ free wokɔ receive nso a ɛyɛ free enti ɛha sɛ deɛ n'adeɛ nti na telcos no ebu yɛn mfa so na ayɛ sɛ wɔgye sika efi deɛ ɔsɛnde hɔ na deɛ ɔkɔ akɔyi nso wɔgye sika fi ne hɔ yɛbɛsrɛ aban sɛ wɔn nso wɔayɛ biara sɛ wɔne ɔkasa ɛmena aba fam ɔnkɔ so a na ɔnkasa sɛnea ɛbɛyɛ a deɛ yɛtua ɛwɔ yɛ sɛnde ne deɛ wɔn nso kɔyi a wɔgye no wɔbɛtumi ama no aba fam na aboa ɔman no nyinaa mpuntuo meda ase
Momiamo Samai Nina, your Argentina, Yatra, or town hall meeting. Honorable Communications Minister, Pachona Abilika, and you are Finance Minister, Babon, top of mine.
Patrol, obi bisa sɛ yɛtua E-levy no aka deɛ telcos no agyeɛ no anaa ane telcos no yɛne wɔn adi nkɔmmɔ anyansawosoɔ bebree ɛma ɔmo a ɛgye ɛtoɔ ɛwɔ adwuma no a ɔmoyɛ no ɔmo atene so sɛ ɔmbɛte so kakra ama amanfoɔ ho ahare wɔ saa na burden no nka adesoa no na ɛno nso mu ayɛ ha kakra ama yɛn nyinaa yɛne ɔmo adi nkɔmmɔ ama ɔmo ankasa ato ɔmo anim tuo sɛ ɔha nkyekyɛmu 25 ɔmbɛyi afiri charges na ɔmo ɛma no na ɔmo nso so ɛde aboa aban na yadesoa no ankorankorɛ yɛnka yɛbɛtua no ɛso ate enti ɛhɔ no nkyerɛkyerɛmu a ɛwɔ hɔ no ɛno no obi nso pɛ so hu nyɛ percentage 1.75 no nte aseɛ ti sɛ wosɛnde 300 Ghana wobɛtua 3 cedis 50 pesos ɛfiri sɛ first 100 no ɛyɛ free enti 200 na ɛda so no ɛno nso toɔ ɛna wobɛtua ɛyɛ 1.75 no enti 3 cedis 50 pesos ɛna ɛbɛba abɛtɔ so ama watua sɛ wosɛnde 300 Ghana da koro a pato ɛno no ɛyɛ easier to understand anaa telcos no ɔmo sɛ yɛbɛka yi a na mefiri bɔɔ dawuro sɛ yɛngye momo ho tax no akyɛ koraa nsa covid no ɛɛba da biara meka nanso meka mpanimfoɔ sɛ daabi yɛnhwɛ na yɛmma saa ecosystem yi enyi mentumpɔn kakra na yɛhu sɛ deɛ esi kɔ na ɛbaa yɛnkyɛe enti mentumebo kakra covid yi baa yɛhwɛ sɛ deɛ yɛn nyinaa yɛbɔ otu yɛyusu yɛ na asɛ yɛn nyinaa yɛate aseɛ sɛ ɛyɛ ade a aba abɛtena ɛyɛ ade a yɛn nyinaa yɛbɛyi a yɛde bɛbɔ yɛn bra enti afei w'ani aduru ne mpanimfie so a yɛbɛtumi adi saa nkitaho no afa ho nti ɛno nso ka ho bi ɛna aba saa service charges na telcos no agyeɛ no afei so a ɔmo tua ho ɔmo de ka ɔmo mfa so ɔmo ayɛ no nyinaa na ɔmo atua ɛtoɔ ɛwɔ ho ɔmo tete ɔho aka na nti ɛhɔ no me na me nso mepere sɛ yɛmfa yɛma yɛni nkɔ hɔ ɔne yɛma me nya asa nkyerɛkyerɛmu ne sɛ yɛde ka wɔn mfa so a ɔmo yɛ afemu no nyinaa ho no yɛaka abom na yɛtwa ɛtoɔ a ɛwɔ sɛ ɔmo tua ɛfa ho no ama wɔn na ɔmo nso so atua saa toɔ no nti wohwɛ mu a na ultimately no ɔmo tua saa ɛtoɔ no ɛnyɛ nokorɛ sɛ Kenya woyusu mobile money a wontua ɛtoɔ biara Almost per se, said the yes of your per se, your man amount for a new Susicano ever platform. The Yasa Opa could ye Sicano every anymore nowadays, Apodiga. Fediga ever platform now, so into the moment and do what men coco yiscano, and who could yiscana on better telcos ne better. Nti mfaso a benya wo mu no na eso ahwere na sɛ woyi so wɔ platform ne so deɛ a ɛka biara ɛni Kenya nso saa wo cash out a wotua nti ɛnyɛ nokorɛ sɛ charges biara ni hɔ ɛma mobile money users mpo company bi wɔ man mu ha ɔno nso so woyi so momo na ɔnye wo ho sika nti companies na ɛsono ɔmo nhyehyɛeɛ a ɔmo ayɛ ɛwɔ saa ɛyi no ho ɛnsa communication ne deɛ information minister obeyi ɛno ano ama yɛn because na Nigeria kɛseɛ mu ano ne responsibility na ɔbɛyɛ nti I think I've answered.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's invite the minister responsible for finance. Honorable Finance Minister, your responses to the issues that have been raised. May I ask Reverend Dr. Kofi Ampo-Akono to stand by for the closing prayer?
Thank you very much. Like I said, Honorable Esther, I responded to most of the questions by I think of communication or information there. And all can say, other than I am taxi, your friends and telephone companies, Ekua, near a day and say, companies here, you have a taxi one, and it's a continuing business. Now, I dare say a TSC, I'm a time from the beginning say, you move 2.4 million per any tier taxes. In the same hour, concern, no better say, oh, angel be not 2.4 million for non-qua in tier. Now, if I can yet do, my immune, as a see in YouTube. As a see in YouTube, in the end, we are, Obia, Bitia, media, send a bear or money, because what you're doing, send a mechanic, or unemployment the same year, a BBIM pattern. Necessary, yes, you cannot, now yet me train, I'm afraid, send a bear once so, one big dinner had to send a agent in a hay, when you're Juma Pa 1 year, and as a one best starting with Juma, send a bear stress on public sector employment, so general unemployment, they are 13%. And unemployment between the ages of 15 to 35, almost 19.7%. But one every universities near day, our banches between the age of 15 and 24, unemployment is 32.8%. Say in dignity, I use one energy near the one, and then I say, it's a trust. Na yeko necessary na yeso adwuma esese na yede Ghana ko kwako a esese eko nti nyina esese rally behind our red gold green make the black star shine, tackle our needs, not depend on the west, as Margaret Khan and also our free the market avoid the IMF. So Nimsenia IMF a same year, but Sika every day 1.75 I can you better home. Send a definitely Parliament will be pass within the next few days. Send a you bet me a share a humanity. And I also echo forward, ABA finance wants to as I say out more near the move on come up. But sometimes you call Parliament, no man, no person, and son away to go. You have a balance. na ya consult yie. But Mr. Mo, sɛnea yɛaba ha yɛne mo abɔ nkɔmmɔ yi, mo nso monkɔnka nkyerɛ mo namfonom sɛ dwuma pa na yɛpɛ sɛ yɛde yɛ. Yɛbɛ report on a quarterly basis, mahu sɛnea yɛuse mo sika no. Na onyame nhyira yɛn na yɛn nyinaa yɛmbuild this great and mighty nation. Thank you very much.
Honorable Ken Foyata, Yedawase, Reverend Dr. Kubebon Payama, Emma no Edi Abum Ada Ghana phone na Monya Bread, Ashay, Etienne, and Neri, what the Munyana Siamai. Now, senior minister Kano and Comodino, to say a parliament, yet the kind of assembly to parliament, anymore. O mine no Comodino, senior FIACNO, assemblyman for NCC4, MP4, NDC4, JD4, driver for near Dinina, Yin ever tea of Wogum, na Yaya Sempatra Jumano, Mobiata, Honorable Alexander Fenyomakin, Pacho, begin up buying him, na, and as a big no man for you, and not that's it, our binding mind.
So, Kojo, thank you so much. Our dear audience, first, thank you for your patience. You have participated. This is the whole essence of governance. And I must say that kudos to the opposition NDC in Parliament. The opposition has brought governance to your doorstep. I am happy that we hear better late than never. So, our friends in the NDC, thank you. That's the beauty of democracy. But I want to assure you that by the commitment from their side, I'm not sure we are going to exchange brows. And it's not good for our country. So that assurance is to you. Now, in this whole engagement, we've been able to establish and demonstrate that we mean well. Government has been able to tell you that from 2017 to date, it has kept faith. Two, through this engagement, we've been able to tell you that this levy is not being imposed merely for the sake of it. After all, we have introduced major social intervention policies that we did not have to introduce taxation to implement. So be assured that with all the concerns from the Auditor General, all the concerns that we have regarding how public funds are spent, the issues that have come up to ensure transparency, especially in the implementation of this E-levy, will be taken on board. Yet don't want to say, if we too say, Nyamisha one, Ghana many now say, Nyamisha Kufrodia. Oh, yeah, Yaba Kufrodia was it? Kufrodia flowers. Much of their hand me a flower. Nyamisha wonder was say one of the Obibiara Abasan number is the Atage Museum. You when you swim there, cancer. Anka kebumemi kebi ho mentem wansa mba nje bia ye mba ha amema fam no mezikofo bia foka papa osande mekeji na parliament menu aye toto mo de hia mo yi ne there ombra parliament ofam da ne ba ne nua kakra ba ni student no church mezemem na emiso metin zeme bi ase oye opinina okona ho gym Mark Isebe Yeboah. It's a place of inspiration. Ne ye nua be fi so wa menu modo a ori yidumapa ozabua amani. Inti mi jisi pa de. Se yasan be biwa obagina to. Nyami hye Eji ofori ata se odo won ase. No ma me sister payin me auntie Madam Esla also odo won ase. O man payin Akufado. O se nyami hye the nipa pomo ne bonimo ye fefe wa anyi da Ghana fo the yenkokan na kase won yen kan nyame hye won azepachi na what akoko no kokoko a na o ya aban nda se kase na o zema ye da won asipi
Bonjour, me nyina yen sorry na yen jempaibo.
Mr. Mama Yamampa. Otumfo Nyankopon a woyɛ yɛn soro agya ɛnnɛ da yi wayi wo ho adi akyerɛ yɛn wode wo dom w'ahummɔbɔ ne wo nhyira awowaw yɛn ɛma town hall meeting a yɛabɛyɛ yi akɔ so fɛfɛfɛfɛfɛ yɛn a ne yɛnte nneɛma ase yɛate aseɛ mpaeɛ a yɛrebɔ ne sɛ ɔman biara nkyekyereeɛ ɔmanfoɔ ne kyekyere ɛnyɛ obi na ɛfiri baabi ɛbɛkyekyere ma yɛn nti boa yɛn ne yɛn nyinaa sɛ Ghana manfoɔ yɛmfa koma ɛnni nea ɛrekɔ so yɛ akyi na yɛn nyinaa obiara kyɛfa a ɛwɔ mu no watumi ayɛ na boa ma mpuntu aba de ama yɛn man yɛn mpanimfoɔ ɛbaeɛ wɔfiri ha kɔ yɛsrɛ wo sɛnea daa wosoa wɔn de wɔn kɔ de wɔn ba no fa wɔn kɔduru asomdwoe mu nnipa ɛbaeɛ yɛn nyinaa ma obiara nya w'anim anuonyam ɔdom ne asomdwoe a ɛfiri Agya Nyankopɔn ɔba ne Honhom Kronkron nka mo na Awurade anim teɛ ne mo nkɔ na Awurade ɛma yɛn abɛn yi adesuadehu a ɔwɔ no mmerɛ mu na yɛn nyinaa yɛn ho ntɔ yɛn yɛyɛ Awurade ne Agyenkwa Yesu nti amen.
Sɔfo yɛda ase yɛbɛto yɛn ayɛ asase ndi na mpanimfoɔ no apie na yɛn nyinaa yɛdi. Yàwó yà ló ẹ̀jẹ̀ rọ̀ yẹn tó yẹn náà yà sá sí ni.
So you are live from Koforidua Section Hall, where the government town hall meeting is ongoing. Just ended. We want to seek the views of some of the participants.